So you want to be an expert programmer. But first, you need to learn the basics. In this lesson, we're going to learn about variables. Welcome back to KaiStack. Thank you so much for joining us again. Variables are the simplest and easiest way to store information or data in our Python scripts. Each variable contains some individual information that we define or is calculated by the code itself. In this lesson, you'll learn the following things about variables: what they are, the different types, how to define them, and how to use them. We've got lots of excellent stuff coming up, so don't forget to subscribe and of course hit the like button. If you haven't watched the first video in this series, it might be worth heading there now. A link should be appearing on your screen right now. Once again, I'm not requiring you to have any prior knowledge other than from the previous video, nor do you need to install any software for this tutorial. Let's head back to the online code editor we used in the last tutorial. Again, it might be useful to have two browser windows open side by side so you can watch the video and follow along as you code. So type or copy and paste the following lines of code. You can get it from the show notes if you look below. So if you've copied this in, I want you to make one quick little change. So the inverted commas around this is a string haven't copied properly for some reason. Just delete those and just replace them with inverted commas that you type in on your keyboard. Don't make sure it's highlighted green like this. Don't know why, it's just a little problem caused by copy and paste in. Just make sure it's highlighted green like this and you shouldn't have any problem. So here we are defining 4 variables. Notice we define each variable on its own line. Each variable has a definition which is 3 parts. So on the left we have the variable name. This is just a word that we use to refer to this variable later. It's not mandatory, but the convention is to name variables in lowercase with underscores in between words. Notice you can't use spaces in variable names. Next, we have the assignment operator. That's just a fancy way of saying equals, the equal symbol. And on the right, we have the value that we're assigning to this variable. In this case, we're giving it the number 2. If you've ever used a spreadsheet program like Excel, you're probably familiar with this sort of thing already. You might have entered data into a column of cells like is shown on the screen. You can reference the cells using the address coordinates. The only difference is that in programming languages such as Python, we refer to them by name. So variables in Python, and as far as I'm aware every other language, have individual types. So we have 4 variables being defined here, and we have 4 individual types. The first one is an integer. An integer is just a fancy way of saying a whole number, like the number 2, the number 3, number 4, so on. Next, we've got floating point numbers. So that's a number with a decimal place in it. That can be something like 3.14 like we've got here, or 0.88 or 2.0. Next, we've got a string. So strings we touched on in the first episode. This is a string of alphanumeric characters with inside inverted commas. Some other examples of strings include the words hello there in inverted commas, 1, 2, 3, 4 in inverted commas, and empty inverted commas, and so on. Now variables, as the name suggests, are variable. They can be changed. So currently the variable on line 1 has a value of 2. Now I want you to make a blank line on line 5. Then on line 6, I want you to add the following statement. I want you to put on this line integer underscore example, so the name of our first variable, space plus equals space again 1. So go ahead and pause the video here and have a go at typing that in on the correct line. I don't want to walk you through it too much. I want you to get used to typing stuff out without following me. Okay, so pause the video here.
A few moments later.
So as you were typing the variable name, did you notice something happen here? So as you've typed integer, it's suggested the name of the variable we already have defined, integer example. So we can save ourselves a little bit of time by clicking that and then entering what we wanted to put in. So plus equals 1. So the plus equals operator here just tells Python that we want to add a quantity to this variable, right? So in this case, we are telling it we want to add 1 to our existing value of integer example. Now add another line. So down here on line 8. Do you remember our print statement from the first lesson? If you need a reminder, there should be a link appearing on your screen now and you can pop that back there for a sec. But anyway, we're going to add another print statement, but this time the argument is going to be one of our variables. Your challenge is going to be to get this print statement to output the value of this variable here, integer example. That's your challenge. Get it to print that, hit run. Right, so pause the video here, do that. I'll see you in a sec.
12 seconds later.
Right, so hopefully you figured out that you just have to type the word integer example. Here you go, it's auto-suggesting it. We just need the argument integer example inside the brackets of our print statement. So it's an argument of print integer example. If we run that, the output is 3. Why is it 3? Of course, integer example is what we originally defined it as. And then on line 6, we have added 1. We've used the plus equals operator to add 1. So now it's 3. So well done if you figured that out all on your own. If not, don't worry. These things just take time. I'm sure it seems obvious to you now, and you'll be able to do it in future. Of course, if we put another print statement up here, so if we make a space, print integer example, and if we run that, we're now getting 2 outputs. We're getting the original value of integer example, which was 2, and then we're adding 1, and then we're getting 3. Now your next challenge is going to be to modify line 8 to not add 1, but to redefine integer example to be of the value 5. Okay, so change line 8 to make the value of integer example, this variable integer example, to have the value 5. Okay, so pause the video here.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Okay, so hopefully you're able to figure out that you just need to get rid of the plus here, so it just becomes the equals operator, and then change the 1 to 5. So then if we hit run, we see that on line 6, where we have this print statement, integer example, it's giving us a value of 2, which was the original value on line 1. And then we're redefining it on line 8 to be 5. So the second print statement gives us 5. Well done if you figured that out. Once again, don't worry if you weren't quite there. This all takes time. Now, a few other clever things we can do with our variables. So instead of just defining it as a single value, we can actually put some sort of operation in there to work something out, like a calculator works things out. So here we're defining integer example is equal to 5. How about instead we put there 5 times, so the star symbol is the times, is a multiplication symbol, 3. So what do you think now we're going to get for our print statement here on line 10? Let's try running it. So of course we've got the number 15. 5 times 3 is 15. We can of course do a divide instead. So we got 1.66 recurring. We can even define a new variable here. Let's call it new variable. And then let's use 2 of our existing variables to create a new variable, or define the value of a new variable. So let's say integer example times float example. So we're using this variable and this variable here actually that we're redefining. So we got that variable times that variable. So let's change our print statement here to new variable, and we will comment this out for a minute. Remember commenting in the first lecture, so we want to essentially turn this line of code off for a minute just so it doesn't distract us. So all we've got is this one print statement now. So let's try running that. So integer example times float example gives us 5 point, that. Now, as a final challenge, I want you to make it up yourself. I want you to make the final challenge up yourself. So I just want you to have a mess around with this. Have a mess around with print statements, defining your own variables, doing different operations on the variables. Just go mad with it. Just have a mess around and see what you get up to. If you find something's gone wrong and it's giving you an error, don't worry. You can always just press Control-Z to just go back a step and then just keep going back until it works again. It's easy. And if you're completely lost, you can just copy and paste the original input data. Great. So, in conclusion, you've learned quite a lot today. You've learned all about variables. You've learned different types of variables, how to define them, how to manipulate them, how to mess around with them and do different things with them. So if you've got this far in the lesson, just well done. Excellent job. You've learned quite a lot and you're really coming along in your journey on learning to use Python. In the next lecture, in the next lesson, you're going to be learning some even more complicated, useful things, such as if statements, what's called conditional logic. You're going to be learning about methods, defining your own methods, and you're going to learn how to put it all together. So make sure to like this video if it's helped you out. Make sure to subscribe so you're ready for the next lecture, the next lesson, to learn all about that. So thank you very much. Once again, don't forget to hit like, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.